So let's dive in now to some key insights and start thinking about 2022. What are we going to see in 2022? What's going to impact our market? Brian, why don't you kick us off? Immigration's been a hot topic, I would say, something we've talked about on the Pulse a lot. Where do you see that going in 2022, and what's the impact on the market?
What's been really interesting is every year the federal government, the Department of Immigration, really sets targets, right? That they're pursuing almost 400,000 new immigrants that they're targeting each year for the next 3 years. Now, we're told, although those numbers haven't necessarily been finally released, that 2021 will be one of the biggest and most active years for new immigration into Canada over the past 5 years. The expectation is that those numbers are going to continue to ramp up going into 2022 and 2023, targeting 411,000 new immigrants in 2022 and 421,000 new immigrants in 2023. These are really big numbers. And we know that there's already a lack of supply, even trying to self-serve the market that already exists within British Columbia. And so it's hard not to believe that of the 400,000 that will find their way into Canada over the next 24 months, many of them are going to choose metropolitan cities like Toronto or Vancouver to call home, and we know how much pressure that's going to put on prices today.
Yeah, the data definitely shows that a big chunk of that group will land in BC and particularly in the lower mainland. So that puts incredible pressure on our already low supply market.
Yeah.
And it's hard not to go a little more micro to believe that, like, realistically, Fraser Valley is such an affordable option, right? And so with the lower rental numbers, with the lower price points, it's hard not to believe that quite a significant portion of that is going to look to markets outside of, you know, the Greater Vancouver area and towards Fraser Valley for homes.
And not just the Fraser Valley.
Yeah.
So we saw this year, of course, because people don't need to be in the CBD constantly, we saw markets everywhere through the province really thrive. So places like Kelowna, places like the Island, and all throughout the BC, they're going to continue to see that trickle-down effect as well as people search for more affordable options and they search for more space, which we've continued to see as well. So, you know, the Fraser Valley is certainly going to get their fair share, but it's actually going to continue to drive the rest of the province as well.
100% agree.
Britt, let's talk a little bit about supply and where we're at today.
We saw inventory down 36% in the Greater Vancouver region, down 41% in the Fraser Valley. I mean, these are numbers that are just not attainable. We ended the year, actually we started this year in our pre-sale pulses talking about sales to listing ratios in Langley townhouse product at 420%. Like, these are absolutely insane numbers that we know are just not going to be sustainable. So unless we can find a way to really unleash the inventory and get some new product into market quickly over the next 8 months, it's hard to believe that A, pricing is not going to continue to see a huge amount of appreciation, and B, that, you know, we're going to see any change in our local real estate market right between Greater Vancouver and Fraser Valley.
Yeah, when we think about supply, I mean, a couple things come to mind. Obviously, low supply, we've talked about how much that drives price escalation. A recent study shows that we are, as a region, $10,000 homes short every year. So we're behind, we're already behind, and if things continue the way that they look, we're 10,000 homes shy every year. So that's going to continue to compound the problem. We are hearing that we've been talking about supply for a while, and it feels like it's finally getting some traction in sort of the public space, certainly by some of our political figures. The province is talking about how they can potentially get involved to help clear up some of these dam breaks. Then the conversation turns to, like, even if we can get our processes streamlined with the city, if we can incentivize our cities to clear up, you know, some of the red tape and get some projects through the process faster, it's difficult not to then think about things like construction costs, both in materials as well as labor and access to labor. We have a massive labor shortage, particularly when it comes to skilled trades. Even if we can release all of this inventory into the market, we have a real challenge in how we keep those costs down, particularly unpredictable costs like DCCs and CACs. And then who's actually going to build all of this stuff, and where do they come from, and how do we train them? We need to get more supply desperately, and in order to do that and fulfill that, we're also going to have to be thinking about construction costs and labor.
Right, and then I think next up is interest rates.
Yeah.
Right? That's not even taken into consideration, which is something that all of us are very much aware. The Bank of Canada has been very clear on their mandate over the next 12 months. Some hints over the past 7 days that rates will hold. It's expected somewhere through March or April to begin to see inches up, whether that's 25 base points or 50 base points. Some are predicting potentially by the end of this year, escalation up to over 150 basis points. Very curious, Brittany, what's your position on rates, and how much of an impact will that have in markets like the Fraser Valley that is so affordability driven?
Well, I mean, we know that over the last few years, the variable rate has just been the top product, right? I mean, who do you not know at this point in time who went with a fixed rate over the last 2 years versus variable? And so, that is going to have a significant impact over the next 2 years. Whether or not, the shortage in supply is there enough to ensure that come fall, with these rate increases, we don't see anything major in terms of a change in our marketplace, is really the question up for debate. I'd be really curious to know what your take on this is.
I think that, obviously interest rates are going to play a role. We also know that people have been squirreling away some money in the last little while, so I think that is a bit helpful. But also when we think about historically, rates are still quite low. And so, does that truly change demand? I don't think so. Obviously, what people look for is going to change slightly. What they can afford, of course, changes. But we also know that people still want a home. We still know that people still need a home. We know that what they're looking for in a home has also changed. And those things I also don't see changing anytime soon. So, it will have an impact to some degree, of course. And unfortunately, it tends to hurt that entry-level market the most, right? The people that are just trying to break in, who are trying to get in, those are the people that get affected the most by that sort of thing, and we will see that impact them. But overall, will it have a significant slowdown to the market? I don't think so, because we also still have all of those other fundamentals at play.